Welcome to the Big Kid Show, the notorious B to the I to the G Kid Show. I am your host, Nick, and what are we talking about tonight? We got rivalries on tap, but guess who is not my rivalry? I'm a fan of both of these gentlemen right here. Joining me as always, we have Mr. B and Sweetwater Mark. Do not ask me how those two guys got those names. That's a whole nother episode. But yeah, once again, back with you on another Sunday fun day. Mr. B, Sweetwater Mark, and yours truly, Big Nick, talking about rivalries. And why would rivalries be on tap? Well, we got things like college football recently started up, and the NFL is back in business, and sports has just it's a wonderful thing, right? It's something that we all can enjoy. You can enjoy it with your family. You can enjoy it with your friends. You can enjoy it by yourself just to get away and take your mind off of work and the stresses of everyday life, right? That's right. That's what we talk about here on the Big Kid Show the most. God bless you, Mr. B. In case you heard that noise, that was
bless you and bless America.
Bless Mr. B. The Pope just blessed you. All right. Now that we got that out of the way,
peace be with you.
Peace be with you, and also with you.
you.
We're talking about rivalries here. Sports helps us all with getting through everyday life, and that's the game that the big kids like to play the most, right? Life is the grandest game of them all. So on today's show, we could have done this little ho-hum show of talking about, well, what's your favorite rivalry, or why do you like this rivalry and not that one? We didn't go that right. No, Thomas Vector stepped in and said, boys, not on my watch, not on my watch. And so he said, me and the research team are going to come up with a rivalries 3 questions for you. I'm going to hand it off to Big Nick. He's going to ask the questions, and the 3 big kids are going to give their answers. And the most beautiful part about all of this is none of us, while all 3 of us know the questions, none of us know each other's answers. So I am prepared to be amazed by the glory that the 2 of you will spread upon the land here today on another Sunday Fun Day. All right. 3 questions. I never know, guys. Here's the first question. This is not part of the 3 questions. I never know how to go about this. Should I announce all 3 questions to everyone in listener land, or should I just hit them with?
I think we'll just go one at a time, buddy.
So B says forge ahead. Sweetwater says you want to see the menu,
the tease of what's to come, but we can forge ahead one at a time. It's no big deal.
Look how friendly
everybody is. Or we could just talk about it for 10 minutes and then keep everybody in suspense of what the first question is.
Yeah, I can tell you about how my day was at work.
Yeah. This is part 1 of a 5-part series.
So I was at the grocery store last week, and
you tell. Did you buy some apples?
I did. I bought 1 apple and then I left. All right. Yeah.
I'm getting some stern looks from Mr. Vector. So he says forge ahead. So we will reveal each question to the audience as we go. And all right, Sweetwater Mark, we'll go with you first here, buddy. Here is question number 1 of rivalries. All right. Name a sport team that you have rivaled against. For you, it is personal. Maybe you've rivaled against them for years, or maybe forever. So meaning a team that you would root against, a team that you would cheer for the opposing team, no matter who they are playing. What is, or what was for a period of time, this most hated team of yours?
So I took this one on a truly personal route, Big Nick, because you said it was personal. So I'm taking it personal. Real personal. So this isn't even a professional sports team. This is a little league baseball team that I played against when I was a kid.
Right on. I love it.
Bastards.
I love it.
So I'm not going to name the specific team because obviously it's a little league team. Not going to
name them.
Throw them under the bus. Children? Are these people still children? Like actual
they probably
kids,
are.
Not big kids?
They probably are. But so in the little league that I played in, there was probably, I want to say like 7 or 8 teams total that we would kind of rotate, right, and kind of play against. And they were all regional teams that were somewhere around our area. But there was one team in particular that was basically like the dynasty New England Patriots of the Little League division, right? And I mean, these guys, like, we would always show up. My parents were like the early birds, so we would always show up way before. So I'd see them playing other teams. And I mean, they basically dominated like everybody, right? I mean, they were leaps and bounds
They
above.
were the Yankees of Little League.
They really were. They really were. So here's where it gets personal for me. And I figured I could use this because I could attach a story to it.
Yeah.
So here I am at, I don't know, 10 years old. I was a pitcher. That was the position I played, en route to a fortuitous career as a soon-to-be drafted pitcher in the Major League Baseball.
Mark was throwing high 80s at 10.
Of course. I mean, it was coming. It was practically inevitable. I mean, you know,
Tommy John surgery at 12.
Yeah.
I already had scouts that were banging down my door. You know, I was like, relax, guys. I'm going to go play some Mega Man.
Yeah. He looked like a young Randy Johnson.
That's right. That's right. Mixed with Tom Selleck.
He had a full mustache.
Yep. And I said, relax, boys. I'm going to go play some NHL 94. All right. Let's just calm down. So what happened was I'd been pitching for a couple of years and really enjoyed it, really got into it, was playing these guys. And we actually were starting to give them, there was one season we were starting to give them, you know, a run for their money. And I would say it was probably like second or third inning. And I threw a heater at this guy. It's probably their second or third best hitter on the team. And this guy hits an absolute line drive right back at my kneecap.
Oh,
and
you got roped?
I got roped. And I mean, I went down. I had a bruise the size of like a basketball on my knee and all the way up to
how big are your knees?
Dude, I'm saying it spread like up to my thigh, down to my calf. Like this thing just like ballooned out in all directions. I mean, I'm surprised it didn't wrap all the way around.
Hence why you've had knee problems your whole life.
Exactly. And what do you know? These guys ended my budding youth career as a pitcher. That was it. It was over after that. I mentally, I guess I just wasn't tough enough. Couldn't do it, man. Couldn't put it back together. I ended up moving to the infield, you know, but yeah. So screw those guys. And if I ever see the Little League team playing on a Little League field with the same uniforms, I'll probably go boo those kids.
No, Mark will drive his car out on there and do donuts.
Like, I know you had nothing to do with this.
But you're going to get some business.
But you're about to get a dust up. So I took it personal, Big Nick. I hope you don't mind. This is the one question I strayed away from the professional sports. But we'll get back on track with the other questions.
Well, and it's a super bummer because Nick and I pretty much were hoping you'd become a pro athlete and we would just be your entourage.
Right. Could you imagine my guitar collection if I was a professional?
Big Nick and I wouldn't even have to work.
I know.
Nick would be your driver. I would be security. We're good.
Or I'd be Billy Bean and be like 5-star recruit, and you're terrible.
Well, I didn't know that when I joined up with you guys today that I was going to learn about the death of Mark's Major League Baseball career. But yeah,
cue the funeral music.
Yeah, play taps. Somebody play taps real quick because that is the day that baseball died. There. I mean, baseball has been dead since then. Everybody knows it.
It was August 22nd, 1991.
And Mark will not.
And this guy cried.
Sweetwater is a man of integrity. He will not name the team because there are currently children on that team, and he does not want America to band against them.
That's right. We wouldn't want that level of retribution.
But if Mark runs into the guy that hit him in real life, he's gonna Nancy Kerrigan him and just hit him right in the kneecap.
I might be on World Star Hip Hop. I don't know.
The teams start with an S. How close can we get you?
Can I buy a vowel? Can I buy a vowel?
Were their jerseys blue?
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic because I hate every Little League team. So that's why we are such dear friends there, Mark. I can get behind that pick. All right, Mr. B, you got to name a team that you, for at least a lengthy period of your life, or maybe it was forever, that you cheer against regardless of who they were playing.
Fair enough. So this one, there, Mark obviously knows there's a few teams that would instantly pop up, but I'm thinking more of when I was a kid. I grew up in Central Ohio, and so I was raised to hate the Michigan Wolverines.
Yes, he was.
Yes. And that alone's one thing. Okay. It's like, all right, whatever. We're Ohio State fans here. But what made me more mad was the kids that would choose to like become Wolverines fans just to spite their family.
They're haters.
Yes.
Haters.
Like
It's a dark place.
A couple of my buddies are listening now and they know who I'm talking about, but it's like, I know why you picked that team. It's just because everyone else liked Ohio State. You're going to go rogue and piss off your parents. And I mean, imagine Big Nick, if you started wearing Michigan stuff around your parents when you were 10 years old, oh, you're getting the boot. So it's just,
Bunch of hippies.
yeah. So I obviously I don't have the hatred for Michigan now as I did, but as a kid, it was just like I didn't understand. I was like, you live in Ohio, man. Like, I understand if you
That
moved,
is weird.
like if you moved from Michigan to Ohio, okay, cool, fair enough. Like if I moved to Michigan, I'm still going to be a Ohio State fan, but I never got that. And so, and obviously my dad being a very hardcore Ohio State fan, there's a lot of hate fueling towards Michigan.
Yeah. I never understood that. The people that liked an outside team, like if their parents were fans of them or something, I get that. But like, like you said, people that are in Ohio that do it just to spite. It's like, come on, man. What are you doing?
Yeah. I never got that. And again, maybe
hipster.
Like, and maybe it was like you liked a certain player at the time, and so you just latched onto that. That could be.
That's
I know
a
lot of
legitimate
people,
reason.
like the Michigan basketball team with the Fab Five and that stuff, but yeah, I just never got it.
Oh, and as a diehard Buckeye fan, the Fab Five was really difficult not to like. But I'm with you. I'm totally with you because to me there was nothing more annoying, right? Like there were people that I would meet growing up. I'm 11 season ticket holder. 11 seasons ticket holder for the Buckeyes.
You're even more hardcore than me as a Ohio State fan. So good for you, buddy.
But you guys are all saying the right stuff, right? Like once in a while you meet a dude and you're like, he's got on a Michigan shirt. But then you get to talking to him, like Mark said, maybe his father's from Detroit or his parents grew up in Michigan or attended Michigan University. A lot of times you would get, at least for me, I encountered several kids that still today as adults live in Columbus, but were born and raised in Toledo. And Toledo's so close to the border, you get like a mixed batch up there. You get about half the population that would root for Michigan. So you can understand that. But then there's these others who they're not really Michigan lovers. They're just Buckeye haters, and they choose to be Michigan fans because they hate the Buckeyes, or they dislike that everybody likes the Buckeyes or the fandom here. But I'll give you a prime example of something that drove me crazy. So one of the apartments that I lived in, I think I lived there for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. My next door neighbor, this guy wore Michigan gear damn near head to toe 361 days out of the year. Like that was his wardrobe.
He took a few days off.
Varying outfits of Michigan. So this is at the time when I think I was in my second or third season at attending all the Buckeye home games, football games.
Gotcha.
So 11 seasons I was down there. So one day I'm walking out and it might have been a bye week for the Buckeyes. Either that or I'm loading up my car to head down to Central Columbus to go to the game. And I look at him. He's wearing a Michigan shirt when I say this to him. I say to him, I go, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" "Good. Big game for you guys today." He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, you got a big game, don't you?" He goes, "I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "The Michigan Wolverines have a big game today." He goes, "Really? Who are they playing?"
Oh,
yeah.
Take a walk.
I said to him, I go, "They're playing Notre Dame." Now, mind you, at the time, that was considered one of the rivalries for the Wolverines.
Oh, yeah.
This turd didn't even know that they were playing Notre Dame, and he has the audacity to wear a Michigan crap on his back 361 of the 65. Right?
Yep.
Come on, son. Come on.
Oh, that would fire me up. And then I would just follow up a question. Name the quarterback for Michigan. And they'd be like, that one guy?
Jimmy Skidibity.
Yeah. Yeah, that is the worst when it's somebody that's just a hater. Now, I would love to talk to some diehard Michigan fans that are reasonable fans. Like I consider myself a pretty reasonable Buckeye fan, but I would love to talk to some
exist
diehard Michigan fans because I'm curious, do they experience the same thing up there? Like around Ann Arbor, around Detroit, do we have anybody that's just like, you know what? All these people around me wearing the maize and blue. I'm just going the opposite direction. Just to go against the grain.
I'm just gonna piss off society and I guess I can see that again. It's just sports, and maybe it's just like I want to be outrageous,
right?
So yeah, I'm going with Michigan Wolverines just because. And again, not I lived in Ohio, so that's where it's coming from. But good work, Big Nick.
Well, and that was where I wanted to go to was Michigan, but I do tell you, I say I'm a reasonable fan. I struggle with at the start of every college football season, do I root against Michigan or for them? Now, pump the brakes.
No. I already know where you're going with that.
Because some of the old school fans will tell you the better Michigan and Ohio State both are, the better the conference is. And that's a concern nowadays, right? It's a big deal.
Absolutely.
And has been for a long time.
And they're always going to play at the end of the season. And so the idea is if Michigan's ranked, hopefully up there, and we win, propels the winner to most likely a top spot. So, yes, I always was the same way. Like, if we're going to win, let's beat the best teams, not the shittiest teams.
And I'll tell you what, I can get behind that idea, especially if they're playing out of conference. I don't know. It's tough because every year there's the part of me that wants to root for them just so they're undefeated or the best they can be when we go and beat them. Or then I got friends that go the opposite way. They're like, no, every week I root against them. So because of that internal struggle that I have with that Michigan team, I went a different route. So I chose and this is pretty specific, the 1990s. That's a 10-year span of Chicago Bulls. Okay. Now, mind you, they won 6 championships in that decade. But if you really want to crunch it a little closer to the numbers, the actual numbers, they won 6 championships in 8 years, in the span of 8 years.
Yeah, because Jordan was on the team until 92.
No, I think he was on the team in 88 or 89.
Okay. I might. Sorry.
Because
I digress.
They struggled to get past the Detroit Pistons in the playoffs for a couple years before the team rose to stardom, right? So when I started getting into basketball big time, the NBA was the late 80s, okay? And being born in Columbus, I wasn't raised to have an NBA team. My father didn't care for wasn't into pro basketball. There is no Columbus professional basketball team. There is the Cavs up in Cleveland. But at the time, I started falling in love with playing basketball and watching basketball. And so I was a Laker fan starting in the late 80s. And the first year that I remember really watching basketball quite a bit on TV was 90 and 91. Okay?
Same here, buddy.
And
good years.
Those were certainly good years. But one thing I experienced during those good years was in the 1990-1991 season, the Chicago Bulls won that first of 6 championships in an 8-year span. And who did they beat? They beat the Lakers. And they beat them in 5 games. The Lakers took game number 1, and then the Bulls ran the table and took 4 games in a row. And after that, the Lakers kind of fell out of it. They were still a playoff team, but they never got back to the championship. And so it became this thing for me every year where the Bulls, now mind you, that year, I only watched the Lakers. So my knowledge of other teams only came from watching the Laker games. Like I couldn't name rosters for you. I could tell you, I knew Michael Jordan. I knew a handful of players.
On NBA Jam.
I knew like every team's superstar, right? I don't think NBA Jam existed in 90-91, did it? So
Well,
I knew
and
each
also
team's like,
part of it was the Lakers were always the one that they would show on TV because they were the popular team. It'd always be like the Lakers and Celtics is what we would get here in Ohio.
1993 is when NBA Jam came out. So you're right.
Isaiah Thomas, I knew all the kind of the key players, but watching the Bulls beat them down in the finals, and then the Bulls just go on this run for the next 7 years straight. And every year, man, I would sit down and it didn't matter who they were playing in the Eastern side of the bracket. That was my team for that night. Right. And they had all those battles against the Cavs, all those battles against the Knicks. And every year I was like, for 2 weeks, I was a really big Knicks fan because like this is going to be the year that the Bulls get knocked out of the playoffs. But
come on, John Stark, let's go.
Yeah, go Johnny Starks. But no, the Bulls went on to have a very successful span of 8 years. And you know what that memory just triggered for me was, remember when Jordan goes off to play baseball for a while, Tony Kukoc joins the team. And remember, there were some people that they're like, this guy might even be better than Jordan. That's what they're saying. It's like, I remember, like, I wasn't a Bulls fan, but I remember shaking my head going, well, I don't know. This doesn't sound right. Like,
well, and that just brought another thought is I think one of those playoff years was when they chimed in with the OJ Bronco situation. Does that make sense? Remember that? Because like the playoffs were on and like they're like, we're cutting to you live with breaking news. OJ is in a Bronco driving down the street. And I was like, this is more important than the NBA playoffs.
Yeah, I think that the Bronco chase was what, in June of 93?
I thought I was watching basketball with a buddy and I thought it was the playoffs, but maybe I'm misremembering. But
well, no, the playoffs would have been roughly June. I was trying to think if it was 93 or 94.
Yeah, because we were watching the game and they're like they're cutting to this over like playoff basketball. That's even weirder. Like it was just OJ driving around in a Bronco at the time. You're like, okay.
So on June 17th, 1994, OJ Simpson led the NYPD, the LAPD on a low speed police pursuit. Yeah, that was weird. You're exactly right, because they cut out from the finals. I remember a buddy of mine.
It was the finals, even more crazy. Okay.
Yeah, we were. I recall it almost like it was yesterday. We were playing some kind of board game and had the game on and the finals game on in the background, just because neither of us were fans of either team, but we wanted to kind of keep an eye on it. And then all of a sudden, next thing we know, we're no longer playing board game and we are glued to the TV. And now we're asking adults all kinds of questions, right? Like,
what is going on here?
Yeah. And I remember leading up to that, like knowing we kind of knew something was going on, because they had already been killed. And then there was a lot of suspicion and it was on the radio and stuff all the time. But for them to cut into that and then to see this, if you were not alive then or not seen footage of this, it's one of the most bizarre things you will ever have witnessed. It's when we say low speed car chase, you say car chase, you think of high speeds, right?
Yeah, he's going like 40.
Yeah, 35, 40 on the freeway.
He didn't want to break the law.
Stopping traffic. They're like clearing a runway for him, and they're just following behind him nice and slow.
Mark never drives 40, ever.
No.
One time I saw him driving 40, and it was in a 25.
Just trying to keep the flow of traffic up, that's all.
All right. Well, that was my pick for team that I rooted against for years was the Chicago Bulls. And it was just, sometimes when the king of the mountain stays on the top of the mountain forever, you just want to knock him off, right? You just want to knock him off. All right.
Of course.
Question number 2, back to Mark. Here's the reveal of question number 2. Name a team or athlete that you could not stand, but for some reason you have had a change of heart and no longer dislike them. So you can pick an entire team. You could pick a single athlete. You could pick a single little league baseball player.
A lot of options. So for me, I think this one was tough. I had it between 2 different ones, and maybe we'll, throw an honorable mention here after this, but it's
got a lot of hate.
I had to go with one Tom Brady. So Tom Brady, I used to absolutely despise. Just never was a fan. And probably, if I'm being 100% honest, a lot of it stems out of jealousy. Just going to admit it.
Of course.
Right? I mean, they had a dynasty. They were winning nonstop. I had in-laws in New England. Never heard the end of it. The Bengals weren't that good. And then the Bengals, started to kind of come into some relevancy. And, we beat New England once or twice. But, I won't say it went from hate to now I'm a fan. But I at least have some respect for the guy, because I think, I used to always think, well, to me, Joe Montana was probably one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
Word.
And the problem was Brady just continued to win Super Bowls.
Kept winning.
Kept winning. I mean, and it got to a point where I'm like, all right, man, like, look, at some point, you got to look, who's he throwing to? Who's that guy? Did they just sign that guy off the street? Like, I don't even know that dude's name. No superstars at receiver. And the guy just continued to win, man. And I think where the respect really came in was I actually started to listen to him talk a little more and kind of some of his interviews. And if you haven't heard his Hall of Fame speech, it's incredible, talking about the amount of effort that it takes and the amount of work and dedication. And it's a video I had my kids watch, because I'm like, you guys should watch this. This is probably now I have to say, probably the greatest quarterback of all time, explaining what it takes. In that Hall of Fame speech, he's saying, when your friends are all out, swimming at the pool, you got to be at the football field putting in the work. When your friends are all going to the movie theater, you're putting in the work. You're not just, relaxing. So I think I had definitely a newfound respect for Mr. Brady. So yeah, I think I'll go with Mr. Tom Brady. Now, it's interesting, the conundrum he's gotten himself into now, being a partial team owner, but also signing up as an announcer for Fox.
Have you seen some of those weird things? Like, he can't go in the locker room and he can't say anything about the referees. I'm like, that's just stupid.
It's very odd. But I kind of see where the owners are coming from, because they're like, look, he's got a vested interest in the Raiders now.
Yeah.
So, like, if he sees stuff, who's to say he's not going to go to the coach and be like, well, I was at their practice and I saw this. He's smart enough to figure out what they're doing. You know what I mean? It's not like he's going to, I don't know how to read a defense or what, how they're practicing. I mean, it's Tom Brady. You could probably see it from, 2 miles away.
Not to throw any shade here, but
shade thrown.
Shade. And this is actually, it wouldn't be directed at Mr. Brady. It would be the NFL that I would direct this at. Does part of you wonder, because he's kind of the darling of the NFL, the king, the
pretty
prince,
boy,
the prince of the NFL, does part of you wonder, like, if it was another player, that they might just be like, nope, you have to pick one or the other. You can't do both. But with him, they're like, oh, you can do it, but here's some training wheels. Here's
like Tony Romo. They'd be like, take a walk, Tony.
No, absolutely. He's going to get preferential treatment. He's like, and like you said, Mark, I don't think there'll never be a quarterback as good as him. I mean, it's like an anomaly of how well he played for so long. I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure he's getting some special treatment. And I mean, hell, he's probably best buddies with all the owners and all the coaches. And so it's just, I mean, he's a guy that, love him or hate him, he's Tom Brady.
And the guy proved his worth. I mean, he put in the work. He was a 6th round pick. I mean, it's so funny when you go back and look at pictures of him just like physique wise when he was drafted versus now. He's in way better shape now than he was when he was like 22.
When you see that picture, you're like, everyone has a shot at playing quarterback in the NFL.
Everybody.
I was like, I look better than Tom Brady.
But I will throw out real quick, honorable mention, San Francisco 49ers.
Ooh, that's a surprise, a shocker.
They beat my Bengals.
Oh, that's right.
The very first game that I ever watched as a Bengals fan in 1988 was the Super Bowl. Now, maybe I watched some of the playoff games. I don't know. Right. I can't specifically remember them, but I do remember the Super Bowl.
You have a burnt-in memory of that.
And it's funny because, like, Brock Purdy, not a hateable guy. You watch the receiver, you see Debo,
Debo,
very
everybody loves
likable guy
Debo.
especially for a guy named Debo.
Yep.
McCaffrey. I mean, like, they're a likable team. You know what I mean? But I see that 49er uniform and my blood starts kind of boiling, and I'm like, all right, just take a breather. Walk away.
Didn't mention George Kittle. I remember you specifically telling me and Mr.
Yes.
B that you would trade the both of us in to be best friends with Mr.
Yes.
Kittle. Like you
I've
said that to
scheduled
our faces.
I've scheduled a few meetups to have beers, and he never shows up. So I'm still waiting for him to show up. You know, he never really responds to my text messages anyway. Some might call it stalker.
As soon as he shows up, we're out, B. You know that. We are out. Oh, yeah. You know, I have a vivid memory of that Super Bowl, too, because I wasn't really a fan of either team, but you know, watching every Super Bowl, I loved watching the Super Bowl, even as a wee little lad. I remember sitting on the couch, and I come from a bigger family, and I remember being the only person in the room that was like, I'm rooting for the Bengals. Everybody else was like, I think the Niners were favored, or maybe even heavily favored. I can't recall. I mean, that was a million years ago, but
even then, if you remember, the Bengals were still a small market team.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, they were the national team everyone would love. So
I always liked Boomer. Boomer was always cool in my book.
Well, I'm just going to piggyback this. So my pick it was a player that I hated and now grown to love. Tied with that would be one Mr. Jerry Rice.
Whoa. You hate Jerry Rice?
Well, and it goes back to that Super Bowl.
You hated him, and you've changed your mind.
Super Bowl 23, I think it was, where they beat our Cincinnati Bengals. And again, I was 9 or 8.
Yeah, we were little.
But I remember even watching that. We went to one of my parents' friends' house. We're watching it there, and just my dad being super deflated. He was like, "Oh, God bless America, this game," and Jerry Rice having a great game. And so it was just like, I hate that Jerry Rice guy. What's he doing? And so then, like, for years after, he obviously kept kicking ass, and I was like, this Jerry Rice guy's bullshit. and then obviously, as I got older, I learned to realize this dude is maybe, if not the greatest wide receiver that will ever play the game. But maybe at the time,
offensive player.
Yeah. I mean, he still has records that are just ridiculous. I mean, no one's ever going to touch his receptions and yards. It's just ridiculous. But like the anger of losing that Super Bowl. And then again, we hadn't been back to the Super Bowl until recently. So damn you, Jerry Rice. Now, to prove it, I used to, again, hate it on Jerry Rice. Learn to respect his game. That I think I even showed it to Mark. I have a Christmas ornament, and it's a Jerry Rice receiver Christmas ornament that I hang up every year. My wife, I think, does not love that, but I'm like, it's going up. Jerry Rice is on the tree. It's went full circle.
See, we both had 49ers on the brain. Can I tell you guys a dirty secret? It's a dirty secret.
Yes,
dirty.
Please.
So we're all fans of Tecmo Bowl.
Yep.
There were definitely times where I like to sneak in a game and play as the 49ers, because how can you not
when no one's
Montana?
looking?
Yep. Plays Joe Montana, thrown to Jerry Rice. How can you not?
Hey, your dad comes downstairs and you turn it off. You're like, I wasn't the 49ers at all.
I was playing the other team.
I was watching Skinamax.
It was porn. It wasn't the 49ers.
Yeah. Your dad's like, it better be porn. You better not have been playing the 49ers.
Raised no son to play as the 49ers.
I will disown you. Well, so yeah, Jerry Rice is my pick. Again, I now appreciate his game and skills, but as a kid, it was just getting burned in my brain of I should not like this person because he beat our Cincinnati Bengals in Super Bowl 23.
Yep.
Well, and mine kind of falls in line somewhere with the both of you here. So for mine, I went with a single player as well. And, you know, there's a great song by a great band, 311, and the name of that song is Misdirected Hostility. And I think that's what I was suffering from during the 90s here. So my player that I'm choosing is Troy Aikman, the one-time general commander of the Dallas Cowboys, who won 3 championships in the 90s. And I think it was truly a product of, here's this team that's at the top of the mountain. I've never been a fan of the Cowboys. They're always America's team, which I don't know why, but that's an argument for another day. But I liked players on this team. And so I feel like I needed someone to direct that anger and that hatred and that rivalry toward. And because he was the general of the offense, the quarterback, I picked him. Like, for no great reason. Keep in mind, I'm a child, so you make a lot of dumb decisions as a child. I'm still making a few as an adult, if you want to keep score. Yep. But this whole podcast turned out bad idea. But I don't know why I like developed like this hate for him. I don't know if hate's a strong word. I don't know that that's the most appropriate
dislike.
Word. I truly disliked him. Like I collected football cards, and I would trade that card away for nothing if it was a Troy Aikman. And that dude, I mean, not only is he a straight up legit dope football player, right? Like, I mean, a legit quarterback. Word. As an adult, he's one of my favorite booth personalities. Like, I love watching Troy Aikman call a game. I absolutely love it. And I sit there on my couch, beer in both hands, guilt-ridden,
double-fisted,
guilt-ridden, full of shame and anger for a young little Nick. Because I'm like, why did I dislike this guy so much? He is such a gem in the booth.
Well, but you were a kid, and you're based it off again, and that was the 90s Cowboys era. They were America's team. They were just so dominant. Like they probably would have been my close second, just in terms of, because they kept winning. I'm like, I hate these Cowboys. They're getting on my nerves.
Yeah,
you know, but
and they were always on TV.
They're always on TV. They're so good. They kind of hit all those boxes of just like this perfect team. You know, they got this great quarterback. They always had the awesome receiver. Got Emmitt Smith, and just like, let somebody else win, you jerks.
I felt the same way about them. I felt about the 49ers, honestly. Like, I was never an Emmitt Smith fan because I always liked Barry Sanders. Mm-hmm. So, no, 100%.
Especially our poor Buffalo Bills. They're just losing 4 Super Bowls in a row. And it's like the Cowboys were the one that put the dagger there at the end. Like, you jerks.
And didn't a
bunch of jerks.
Look what you did, you jerk.
Didn't the Bills feel like the blue collar working man's team, right?
Yes,
like,
they did.
And to see them lose back to back to the Cowboys. Great documentary, by the way. I think we've talked about this before on here, called The Four Falls of Buffalo.
Yeah.
Fantastic documentary. Now, speaking of documentaries, I didn't know this till today. So I was doing a little research for the show, and I hopped on.
Whoa, hang on. You were doing your own research?
I was, yes. I put in the time, baby. I'm like Tom Brady, right? Okay. I do the work. Yeah.
Mark and I just contact the team and just be like, hey, dig it up.
Email Thomas Vector and have him put a few guys on it. I think it's DallasCowboys.com, whatever their official website is for the Dallas Cowboys. I found myself on there for a while. They do each season they do a documentary, like 4 or 5 episodes, and they're like 45, 50 minutes long, and they're legit documentaries. Like, they're filmed brilliantly and things like that. So I lost a few hours doing that, but yeah, I'm telling you, Troy Aikman, I cannot give him enough kudos, and I beg for forgiveness, Mr. Aikman. You are an absolute gem in the booth. Like, you are fantastic in the booth. One of my favorites to watch. He's got a fantastic restaurant down at Texas Live. If you're ever in the Arlington, Texas area, check that out. All right, we move on. We forge ahead. The third and final question of today's 3 questions. Mr. Mark, this is one that just puts a smile on my face, right? I can go.
Mark's fired up about this one too.
I got 75 honorable mentions for this one.
I only have one.
I can wash away the guilt from hating Mr. Aikman for 20 years of my life. I'm washing it away. All right, number 3. This one's just for fun. We're just having fun now here, big kids. Name a video game rivalry. It's personal, baby. This is about as personal as it comes. This is either you versus a specific game. So you could pick a video game. You could pick a boss within that game, or maybe an opponent within that game that you personally had a deep, deep hatred for. I'm talking deep hatred, the deepest of hatreds.
It burns in your loins.
It burns in you can feel it in your plums. You're sick in your balls about it.
So for this one, boys, I don't think it's actually going to be that much of a surprise. This it's a team. This team actually stretches for me across multiple video games. And I'm talking Tecmo Bowl, Madden, Joe Montana's football, NFL 2K, you name it, doesn't matter. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, mama.
The Pittsburgh Steelers will and forever will be probably, in my mind, the biggest rivalry. I know with the Bengals now, there's a lot of talk with the Chiefs and the Bills and the Ravens, but it's always been Cincinnati, Pittsburgh for me. Now, granted, well aware that there was years that in Pittsburgh that feeling might not have been reciprocated because they just walked all over us for a while.
Yeah. And they're like, you're not a rival. You guys are nobody.
Yeah, you're the little brother. And we were for quite a while. But that's for us in Cincinnati why it was a rivalry, because it was always, we got to finally take out these Steelers. And to be able to do that in video game format across whatever football game I played, it didn't even matter. That made it all worthwhile.
Mark would play Super Takeable. I beat the Steelers 72-0.
Exactly. And then I'd cry 2 days later when they lost in real life to the Steelers.
Yes. Way to go, Achilles Smith.
That's right. God damn it, David Klingler.
Come on, kid, now get it together.
Shaking Blake, what are you doing? So yeah, Pittsburgh Steelers for me, they had so many characters that were hateable. It's funny, you think of like video game bosses, and I'm like, the Steelers almost had some like video game boss-esque, like Troy Polamalu. Like, that dude's like a video game boss. You know what I mean?
James Harrison's another one.
James Harrison.
The bus.
Yep, the bus, exactly. There's just
Hines Ward.
So many. Hines Ward
being dirty down the field, blasting dudes.
Even what's his name? The Chin. Coward.
Coward, yeah.
I mean, he looks like you would face him in the alley. He's like, my chin will defeat all of you.
And he can't talk without spitting all over people. Like,
yeah.
Exactly. So the Steelers for me was definite. I will very quickly give you two honorable mentions, and
two of the 97.
Two of the 97. Contra. Do you guys remember the final boss in Contra, the plasma wall or whatever the hell that thing was? Yeah.
They're just firing shit at you, and you're jumping around like a crazy person.
Exactly. And they got the electrical beams. Actually, I don't know if that was the final boss, but they got the electrical beams that are coming at you, and you're going left and right. It was like one of the few times the game had the view from behind you versus in the side.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
And oh my God, that frustrated me so goddamn much. And then Contra got me all flustered. Hold on. Give me a second.
Deep breaths.
Gotta think about it. The second one, I'm going Mega Man.
Oh,
Mr. Wood. I don't know if you guys remember that. He his body was like a tree trunk basically, and he threw leaves at you.
Leaves?
He was always pitching a tent.
Put earmuffs over your kids' ears. Fuck that dude. That's what I said many times as a kid.
Earmuff up.
So yeah, that's what I got, boys.
Beautiful, Mark.
All right, let me repeat the question because we're all a little traumatized.
I feel like I need to go do some breathing exercises.
Yeah. I was thinking this would be a lot of fun. It's turned out to be a rather stressful episode.
I'm gonna go do some taekwondo.
Mark, find your center. Find your center.
Those push-ups I've been putting off, no problem. I'm hitting it right after this episode. All right, Mr. B. Back at you. Same question. Name a video game rivalry. It's personal. Either you versus a specific game, a boss, or opponent that you personally had a deep, devout hatred for.
So the biggest one is the original NES Nintendo. Uh-oh. We only had a handful of games. But the one game that there's a couple bosses that I could never get past. Like, I was terrible. I could never beat a game. I just was terrible at it. I'll admit that now. I'm not mediocre at video games.
It's okay. This is a safe place.
Yeah. But we had We had the original Mike Tyson's Punch-Out.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Not
I already like where this is going.
Yeah, not the regular Punch-Out. We had the Mike Tyson's one with Mike Tyson on it, and I could get through all the first guys. I could beat Glass Joe, Von Kaiser, Piston Honda, Don Flamenco, King Hippo, no problem. Great Tiger, easy. Yep. Bald Bull, no problem. Yep. Even Soda Popinski. And then I would get to Mr. Sandman. God damn it. I could not get through him.
Yes.
And then I would, a couple times I would beat Mr. Sandman. And then I'd get to Macho Man. I could never beat Macho Man. Ever.
Dude, Mr. Sandman was a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And then Macho Man was even more powerful. So the only time that I ever saw someone play actual fight Mike Tyson is I had another buddy come over and he's like, oh, let me show you how to do it. And he would just beat him. I'm like, you dick. I've spent like 60 hours of my life trying to figure out this game. And he comes in, he's just like, beep, 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 beep. But this was also a kid that you remember the magazine they had called like Nintendo Power.
Yep.
So he would get all those like little tips and tricks from the magazine on how to do it. And I was like, oh, we can't afford Nintendo Power magazine in this household.
We were lucky enough to have the video game system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So like that one just infuriated me because I could not get past those guys. And then remember, if you got to them, like you would only get a code that would take you up to like a certain player.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think I would always get a code that would take me to Soda Popinski. So I have to fight him, and then I could never beat those next guys. It just drove me nuts.
That game was very challenging, to say the least.
And I have like the reboot now, and I'll still try to play it. And I got to Mr. Sandman again. Can't beat that bastard.
So to be clear, you did beat Sandman a couple of times?
Yes. And then I got to Macho Man, and then he beat the crap out of me. And then the problem is like you get that code, so I'd reset and I'd go back to Soda Popinski.
Yep.
And I could barely beat Mr. Sandman, so I couldn't get and it would be infuriating. And I remember we had that code written down next to the Nintendo, and it's like, and I was like, Drew, do not touch that code.
Still funny you had to write the code down.
What percentage do you say you were beating Mr. Sandman when, let's say if you played, if you got to him 100 times?
Oh, 5.
You beat him 5% of the time.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And to be very clear, you're stating that Mr. Sandman is your rival that you hate, your video game rival for all of eternity.
He's the biggest one because I could barely beat him, and then I could never beat Macho Man. So Macho Man, I guess maybe he's my biggest rival because I would get to Macho Man and I'd be like, God bless America. So I never got to Mike Tyson on my own. I had to have some buddy come over and do it. And he just whizzed through it. I'm just watching him like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing in video game history.
How is that possible?
Yeah. Now, also you have to figure this is like 5 years after the game came out because we didn't get a Nintendo till a few years after they came out, but
Yeah.
So
I was asking those very specific questions because my all-time video game rivalry is from the exact same game. And I'm not talking reboot, baby. I'm talking before Mr. Tyson went to prison and his name and face was all over that game, right? Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, one of the best games ever.
Yeah,
you can't tell me different. However, look, I was a guy that I wouldn't say that I beat the majority of games that I own. I would say I beat somewhere in the 25 to 34% of the video games that I own. Okay. Well, I think that's not terrible. Mr. B's given himself a lot of flack saying he wasn't the kind of guy that beat games.
I never beat games. Like, especially remember back in the day when you could rent them.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And like we would get them for a weekend. I would never be able to beat them in a weekend.
The list of, again, 25 to 34%, I would say is about
that's very specific.
Yeah,
yes,
the percentage of games that I would beat. Less than half, but certainly more than 10%. But you were better at this game than me because my rival was Soda Popinski.
Oh,
I hate the guy's face. I hate the color of his skin.
Yeah, you couldn't beat the Russian vodka drinker.
Well, and then he comes from a lineage that is where we're natural enemies anyway. U.S. versus Russia, baby. So, but remember the thing I hated about him the most is before the fight would even start, he already laughs at you. He walks right out and he's like, nah. He just like laughs at your face. Okay. So the reason why Soda Popinski is my rival, hell, he's my nemesis when it comes to video games. The reason being is that dude was the line in the sand for me. Okay. Like when I got to him, I pretty much had a 45% chance of beating him. He beat me the majority of the time. I never, ever beat Sandman. I'd get to him on a rare occasion.
Okay.
And in part, I think Popinski would take so much out of me mentally, physically, emotionally.
Your thumbs are all got calluses and you're sweating and you got
PTSD.
You got Cheetos all over the place.
Yeah, I was in a bad place.
Even when I beat Coca-Cola.
Yeah. And so you play ball bull the second time and flamenco a second time. And if I managed to squeak by those two, I would play Sandman. I never once beat Sandman. But you're talking, I probably only got the Sandman 20, 30 times.
Okay. All right.
So so Popinski for me was the guy that I couldn't stand. I couldn't stand his laugh. And then when the times that he would beat you, he'd sit there and he lifts his head up and down and he laughs in your face. The other thing I want to bring up here.
He would do the peck bounce. Bump, bump, bump. Remember his...
Yeah. Jump, 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 jump.
The other thing I want to bring up here is they list a lot of these opponents on Tyson's Punch-Out as heavyweight fighters. Clearly, me and them are not in the same weight class. Like Mac is very small compared to
I think he listed
guys.
like 178 pounds or something. And you're like, wait, what?
I'm clearly not fighting in my weight class. And then another thing I got to thinking about too. These are the thoughts that go through my mind on a long drive. Okay. I had a long drive today.
Gotcha.
I got to thinking about this. Mario is the referee in Punch-Out. He also is the referee in the Nintendo tennis game. And I'm sure he's refereeing other games as well. But so he's moonlighting as a referee in multiple sports, being a plumber during the day. And then his hobby is like trying to save the prince. He's got his calendar is full.
Oh man, that guy spread thin.
He's got a lot going on.
What you know then, I mean, as a referee, he's just missing calls, man. He's missing below the belts. He's just, the
guy's got to eat mushrooms just to go to work. Go to work.
Oh, God,
make it through the work day.
Not only that, he's on drugs. Yeah, he's refereeing.
Aaron Rodgers won't quit calling him.
Oh, man. Now that you point this out, this makes a lot of sense why it was so tough to win that game. You got a high on mushroom referee, and then he's moonlighting as a tennis referee, and then on top of it, he's a plumber. What? Is he qualified?
Is he qualified?
So I went down this YouTube rabbit hole on complete accident.
Uh-oh.
But I'm so glad that I did. So I want to give a shout out to Summoning Salt. I don't know much about this thing. It's a channel. I think it's an actual person, right? Summoning Salt. You can get on there on his YouTube and you can watch these games it's him playing video games. You don't see the person, you just see the screen. So in one of his videos, he beats Soda Popinski in 46 seconds.
How's that possible?
Well, I watched it. I'm here to tell you it is possible. Popinski did not hit him a single time. So
know the secrets.
He beats him in 45 seconds. And then the caption that he adds to the video at the bottom says, this took approximately 500 tries to get the 46 seconds.
Wow.
The world record is 45 seconds. So somebody out there has beat Popinski in 45. I didn't know that there were world records for this stuff. Okay. Somebody's keeping track.
Guess what? I have a new goal in my life.
So 46 seconds is what Summoning Salt beat Popinski. And then I found this one video where he goes and he plays Mike Tyson's Punch-Out from start to finish, times each match, and you can see the rundown on the left side. He's got the world record of like Glass Joe is 42 seconds. He ties that record. So the game must be structured that it's not possible to go